My American dream was a safe street and a son's first soccer goal. It all shattered the moment the flashing lights appeared, forcing me to unleash the deadliest secret I'd kept hidden for his entire life. The gentle hum of the engine was the only thing breaking the comfortable silence between me and my son, Leo. He was in the back, kicking his feet, still buzzing from his first-ever soccer goal. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, casting a warm glow over the manicured lawns of our new neighborhood. We'd only moved in a month ago, and this quiet, peaceful drive home was exactly what I'd been working for. It was the American dream, or at least my version of it. A safe street, a good school, and a little boy in the back seat with a grass-stained jersey and a Kool-Aid smile. I saw the flicker in my rearview mirror before I heard the siren, a flash of blue and red, stark and violent against the soft twilight. My stomach clenched into a tight, cold knot. It's a feeling I know well, both from my job and from my life. It's the feeling of a carefully controlled situation suddenly spiraling. "Mommy, what's that?" Leo's small voice piped up from the back, his excitement instantly replaced with a tremor of fear. My training kicked in, a calm, cold river flowing over the hot panic of a mother's instinct. "It's okay, sweetie. It's just a police officer. He probably just wants to tell me my tail light is out." My voice was even, measured, a perfect imitation of a woman who wasn't worried. Inside, my heart was hammering against my ribs. I checked my mirrors. No erratic driving, no speeding. I hadn't even rolled through a stop sign. I knew what this was. I signaled, pulled over to the curb, and killed the engine. The silence that followed was heavy, punctuated only by the crackle of the officer's radio as his cruiser parked behind me. I turned on the interior light, rolled down my window, and placed my hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, right where they could be seen. Years of drills, years of protocol, all clicking into place. But this time it felt different. This wasn't a training exercise. My son was in the car. A heavy-set officer with a buzz cut and a face that looked permanently unimpressed approached my window. His partner, younger and leaner, hung back by the passenger side, his silhouette a dark shape in my side mirror. The first officer, whose name tag read Miller, shone a painfully bright flashlight into my car, sweeping it over me, then lingering on Leo in the back seat. "Mommy, his light is too bright," Leo whimpered, shielding his eyes. "It's okay, baby," I said, not taking my eyes off the officer. I addressed him directly, my voice steady. "Officer, could you please lower the beam? You're frightening my son." He grunted but angled the light down toward my hands on the wheel. "License and registration." "No please, no ma'am. Just a flat board command." I moved slowly, deliberately. "I'm reaching into my glove compartment for my registration, and then my purse for my license," I narrated. Every move announced. I handed them over. He took them, his eyes barely glancing at the documents before scanning the interior of my car again. He lingered on the child seat, the soccer ball on the floor, the stray juice box. It was a picture of domesticity, of a single mom just trying to get through her day. It didn't fit the narrative he seemed to have in his head. "Ma'am, do you know why I pulled you over?" he asked, the classic question. "No, officer, I do not." "We've had a report," he said, drawing out the words, "of a vehicle matching your description driving suspiciously in this area, circling the block a few times." I felt a flash of anger, hot and sharp, but I tamped it down. The cold river of training took over again. "Officer, with all due respect, I live 2 streets over. I was coming home from my son's soccer practice at the community park. I haven't circled any blocks." He smirked, a small, ugly twist of his lips. "You live here, in this neighborhood?" The question hung in the air, thick with insinuation. He wasn't asking for my address. He was questioning my right to exist in this space. "Yes," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "I do." He handed my license and registration back to his partner without looking at him. His eyes were still locked on me. "I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle, ma'am." "For what reason?" I asked. The question was a risk, but a calculated one. "For my safety, and for yours," he said, his hand casually drifting down to rest on the butt of his holstered firearm. We need to ascertain why you were casing the neighborhood. Casing the neighborhood. The accusation was so absurd, so profoundly offensive, that for a second I almost laughed. But then I saw Leo's reflection in the rearview mirror, his little face pale with fear, and the humor died in my throat. This man, with his badge and his gun, was the single greatest threat to my child's safety at this moment. "I'm not getting out of the car with my child in the back seat," I stated, my voice losing its placid tone and gaining an edge of steel. "You have my license. You have my registration. You can run my plates. There is no probable cause for you to remove me from my vehicle." Miller's eyes narrowed. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a low, menacing growl. "You don't get to tell me what probable cause is." He clearly wasn't used to people knowing their rights. He was used to fear. He was used to compliance. As he leaned in, his flashlight beam cut across the passenger seat next to me. It landed on my work bag. It's not a purse. It's a black, heavy-duty tactical go bag made of reinforced ballistic nylon. It's heavy, utilitarian, and it has a distinct, blocky weight to it. I saw the officer's eyes fix on it. I saw the shift in his posture, the subtle tensing of his shoulders. His smug condescension evaporated, replaced by a surge of aggressive adrenaline. He took a half-step back from the car door. His partner, Davis, noticed the change and moved forward, his own hand now resting on his weapon. "What's in the bag?" Miller demanded, his voice sharp, no longer bored. I stayed silent. I was calculating, running scenarios, assessing threat levels. The optimal de-escalation path had just vanished. His eyes, wide and hostile, flicked from the bag to my face. He saw a black woman, alone, in a nice neighborhood where he thought she didn't belong, with a bag that looked like it could hold something far more serious than diapers and snacks. He unsnapped the holster on his gun. "Ma'am," he barked, his voice cracking with tension, "I am giving you one final command. Step out of the vehicle, place your hands on your head, and do it now." The click of the holster snap was deafening in the sudden sharp silence. It was a sound that cuts through training, through composure, and slices directly into the primal fear of a parent. In the back, Leo let out a sob, a heartbreaking little sound that shattered my control into a million pieces. For a split second, I wasn't an agent. I was just a mom, a cornered animal with her cub in the back seat, and a predator at the window. My training slammed back into place, a steel door against the panic. My voice, when I spoke, was unnaturally calm. "Officer Miller," I said, using his name, making it personal, forcing him to see me as a person. "My 7-year-old son is in the car. You are pointing a weapon in his direction and he is hysterical. I am going to comply with your order. I am going to step out of the car. But first you are going to take your hand off your firearm and you are going to step back from my window." It wasn't a request. It was a statement of terms. I saw a flicker of confusion in his eyes, warring with the aggression. He was a bully on a power trip, and bullies only understand two things: fear and a greater power. He expected fear. I was giving him something else. "Get out of the car now," he repeated, but the conviction had a hairline fracture in it. I ignored him and twisted in my seat, my movements slow and fluid. I gave Leo the smile I reserved for when he was getting a shot at the doctor's office, the one that said, "This is nothing, and we're brave." "Hey, superstar," I said softly. "Mommy has to talk to the officer for a minute. It's boring adult stuff. I need you to do a super-secret spy mission for me, okay? I need you to close your eyes, put your hands over them, and count as high as you can. Don't stop until I say the code word. The code word is spaghetti. Can you do that for me, my brave little spy?" He nodded, tears streaming down his face, and jammed his little fists into his eye sockets. 1, 2, 3, he whispered, his voice trembling. It was the most courageous thing I had ever witnessed. I turned back to the officer. My smile was gone. "I am now unbuckling my seatbelt," I announced. "I am opening the door. My hands will be visible at all times." I stepped out into the cool night air. The strobing red and blue lights were disorienting, painting the quiet suburban street in garish, frantic colors. Miller grabbed my arm roughly, spinning me around and shoving me against the side of my own car. The cold metal of the door pressed against my cheek. I heard his partner, Davis, step forward. I heard the chilling rattle of handcuffs. "What's your name?" Miller grunted, his breath hot and sour near my ear, as he kicked my feet apart. "It's on my license, which you have," I said, my voice flat. "Don't get smart with me," he snarled. Davis secured the cuffs behind my back. They were tight, the metal biting into my wrists. I didn't flinch. I just stared at the manicured lawn across the street, focusing on a plastic pink flamingo as if it were the most important thing in the world. I could still hear Leo counting in the car. 31, 32. My heart broke with every number. "Okay," Miller said, stepping back, his tone triumphant. "Let's see what you were so nervous about." He walked toward the open passenger door, his eyes locked on my go bag. He was like a shark that had scented blood. "Officer," I said. My voice was different now. The warmth, the carefully constructed tone of the non-threatening mother, was gone. What was left was cold, precise, and carried an authority that had nothing to do with local ordinances. "Do not touch that bag." He laughed, a short, ugly bark. "You're in no position to be telling me what to do, lady." He reached into the car. "That bag is the property of the United States government," I said, my voice dropping lower, each word a carefully placed stone. "It is a level 4 secured container. It is equipped with a biometric lock and a GPS tracker that is monitored in real time." He paused, his hand hovering over the bag's strap. He shot a glance back at me, a glimmer of uncertainty in his eyes. He thought I was bluffing. "Go ahead, Officer Miller," I continued, my voice as sharp and cold as ice. "Touch it. The moment your fingerprints, which are not registered in the system, make contact with the scanner on that lock, you will trigger a silent emergency beacon. Within 90 seconds, that beacon will geolocate your exact position to the Department of Justice and the nearest FBI field office. An alert will be sent out for interference with a federal agent in the commission of duties. And trust me when I tell you, the people who show up for that call will have a lot more questions for you than you had for me, and they won't be as patient." He stood frozen, his hand just an inch from the bag. The entire world seemed to shrink to that small space. The flashing lights, the quiet street, Leo's muffled counting from inside the car, it all faded away. There was only Officer Miller's shocked, angry face, staring at a black nylon bag as if it were a bomb. He looked from the bag to me, the cuffs on my wrists, the defiance in my eyes. He was a small-town cop who had just pulled a thread, and was beginning to suspect it was attached to something that could unravel his entire world. And I saw in his eyes the critical, terrifying question. Was I lying? The silence stretched, thin and taut, ready to snap. I could practically hear the gears grinding in Officer Miller's head as he processed my words. He was caught between his wounded pride and a sudden creeping fear of the unknown. He had built this entire confrontation on a foundation of assumptions about my race, my gender, my presence in this neighborhood, and I had just kicked the legs out from under it. He looked back at his partner, Davis, searching for support, but the younger officer just stared back, his expression a mixture of confusion and alarm. For the first time, Davis looked like he was realizing this was no routine traffic stop. "You're lying," Miller finally spat out, but the words lacked force. It was a desperate bluff, and we both knew it. "Am I?" I replied, my voice dangerously soft. "There's a very simple way to find out. In fact, I'd welcome it. I'm due for a performance review, and a documented case of local law enforcement attempting to illegally search federally secured materials would look fantastic on my record. It would highlight the very real need for improved inter-agency cooperation." I let the bureaucratic jargon hang in the air, knowing it sounded more intimidating than any direct threat. I could see the war playing out across his face. The bully in him wanted to call my bluff, to reassert his dominance by yanking the bag from the car and proving me wrong. But the career cop, the guy who had a mortgage and 20 years until his pension, was screaming at him to stop. He had stepped onto a minefield, and every instinct was telling him not to take another step. From inside the car, Leo's counting faltered. 98, 99, 100. Spaghetti, mummy? His voice was small and hopeful. A fresh wave of fury washed over me, cold and clear. This man had made my child count to 100 in the dark while I was being cuffed against my own car. "Take the cuffs off me, Officer Miller," I said. It wasn't a request. The steel was back in my voice. Right now. He flinched, not from the words, but from the tone. He looked at Davis again. What do you think? He muttered, low enough that he thought I couldn't hear. Davis took a half step back, effectively washing his hands of the decision. I don't know, man. That bag... She seems pretty damn sure of herself. Miller turned back to me, his jaw tight. He was trapped. If he backed down now, he'd lose face. If he pushed forward and I was telling the truth, he could lose his career. He chose a third option, stalling. We're going to run your prints, he announced, trying to sound authoritative. If you've got a record, we'll find it. Good, I said. Run them. But first you're going to let me talk to my son. You can stand right here. I'm not going anywhere, as you can see. I nodded pointedly at the handcuffs. He hesitated for another long moment, then gave a curt, angry nod. He unlocked the cuffs. The relief was instantaneous as blood rushed back into my hands. I rubbed my wrists, never taking my eyes off him, and walked slowly to the open car door where Leo was still sitting, his little face streaked with tears. I leaned in, keeping my body between him and the officers. Hey, my brave little spy, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. You did so good. Best counter I've ever heard. Mommy just has to finish up with these men, and then we'll go home and have some real spaghetti, okay? He nodded, sniffing. Are they bad men, Mommy? The question was a punch to the gut. No, sweetie, I lied, stroking his hair. They're just... confused. It's okay. Everything is going to be okay. I needed him to believe it, and maybe I needed to believe it too. I gave him a quick kiss on the forehead. One more mission. Can you sing your ABCs for me? Really loud? He brightened a little. Okay, Mommy. He took a deep breath and started to sing, his small wavering voice filling the car. I straightened up and turned back to Miller, my expression unreadable. My son is now calm, I stated. I have complied with your orders. Now you will comply with mine. You will step away from my vehicle. You will call your supervisor to this scene, and you will address me as Agent Devereaux. The name just hung there. It wasn't on my driver's license. It was a name tied to a life Leo knew nothing about. A life that was now colliding violently with the one I had built for him. Miller's face went pale. It was the name that did it. Not the threat about the bag, not my tone, but the sudden, official-sounding name. He fumbled for his radio, his bravado completely gone, replaced by the shaky uncertainty of a man who knows he has made a catastrophic mistake. He was about to key the mic when a sleek black sedan without any markings turned onto our street. It didn't have its lights on, but it moved with an unnerving speed and purpose. It slowed as it approached, its headlights cutting through the flashing police lights, and glided to a stop directly behind Officer Miller's cruiser. The driver's side door opened, and a man in a perfectly tailored suit stepped out. He was tall, lean, with silvering temples, and an aura of calm, lethal authority. I knew him. It was Assistant Director Carmichael, the head of the entire D.C. field office, my boss. Carmichael didn't even glance at the two local cops. His eyes, sharp and intense, found me immediately. He took in the seen me, standing by my car, my son singing in the back seat, the two shell-shocked officers. Then his gaze dropped to my wrists, to the fresh red marks left by the handcuffs. His expression, which was already severe, darkened into something far more dangerous. He looked at Miller, and for the first time, I think Miller understood what real trouble looked like. It looked like a man in a $1,000 suit who could end your career with a single phone call. Carmichael's voice was quiet, but it cut through the night like a razor. "Officer," he said, his eyes boring into Miller, "you have exactly 10 seconds to explain to me why my lead agent on the Donovan case is standing on the side of the road in her pajamas, instead of being at her secure location." He glanced at my yoga pants and old college sweatshirt. "And why she looks like you've just had her in cuffs." Officer Miller's face went from pale to chalk white. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. It was as if Assistant Director Carmichael had sucked all the air, all the bluster, right out of him. The name Donovan hung in the air like a death sentence. The Donovan case was the biggest domestic terrorism investigation on the East Coast, a multi-agency hydra that had consumed the Bureau for the past 18 months. It was classified to a level that made most classified information look like a public library book, and Miller, in his infinite wisdom, had just stumbled into the middle of it. Carmichael took a slow, deliberate step forward, his gaze never leaving Miller. "I'm waiting," he said, his voice dropping another 10 degrees. "And my patience is not infinite." "Sir," Miller stammered, his eyes wide with panic. We had a report. A suspicious vehicle. Agent Devereaux, was uncooperative." He was grasping at straws, trying to reframe his profiling and aggression as procedural necessity. Carmichael's laugh was a short, sharp, humorless sound. "Uncooperative? Agent Devereaux is one of the most decorated undercover operatives in the Bureau. Her entire career is built on control and de-escalation. If she was uncooperative, it's because you gave her no other choice. Now let me rephrase. What was the specific, actionable intelligence that gave you probable cause to pull over a single mother driving home from a soccer game with her child?" Miller stared, dumbfounded. The silence was his confession. There was no intelligence. There was a black woman in a nice car in a nice neighborhood. That was it. Carmichael didn't wait for an answer he already knew. He turned his attention to me, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. "Devereaux, are you and your son unharmed?" "We're fine, sir," I said, my voice steady, though I could feel the adrenaline beginning to recede, leaving a deep, trembling exhaustion in its wake. "Just shaken." "Good. Get your son home. Your primary detail is 2 minutes out. They'll follow you to the door. We'll debrief tomorrow at 800. He then looked past me, into my car, where Leo was now quietly singing, "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." A brief, almost pained expression crossed his face before it was gone. He understood the stakes. He knew what this night had cost me. He turned back to the 2 officers, who now looked like schoolboys awaiting the principal's wrath. "You 2, he said, his voice a low command. "Give me your badges and your service weapons." "Sir, you can't—" Miller started to protest. "That wasn't a request," Carmichael cut him off, holding out a hand. "You are being placed on administrative leave pending an internal affairs investigation, which I will be personally requesting from your chief of police, with whom I have a breakfast meeting scheduled for 0600 tomorrow. You will also be named in a formal complaint from the Department of Justice for unlawful detainment and harassment of a federal agent during a Class A investigation. Your careers as you know them are over. Now give me your badges." Defeated, Miller and Davis slowly, reluctantly, unclipped their badges and unholstered their weapons, handing them over to Carmichael as if they were made of lead. He took them without a word and placed them on the hood of his sedan. "Go wait in your vehicle," he ordered. "Don't move, don't speak, just wait." As the 2 disgraced officers shuffled back to their cruiser, their authority stripped away, I walked to my car. I leaned in and unbuckled Leo. "Mission's over, my little spy," I whispered, lifting him into my arms. He was almost too big to be carried, but tonight I needed to hold him. He wrapped his arms around my neck and buried his face in my shoulder, his little body finally relaxing. I carried him to the front door of my house, the house I had worked so hard for, the symbol of the safe life I was trying to build for him. As I fumbled for my keys, 2 more black sedans pulled quietly onto the street, parking at either end, their occupants visible only as watchful silhouettes. My protection detail. The very people I had been given leave from for 48 hours to have a normal weekend. I got the door open, carried Leo inside, and shut it behind us, finally leaving the flashing lights and the wreckage of Officer Miller's career on the curb. I set Leo down in the entryway. He looked up at me, his eyes wide and serious in the soft light of the hall. "Mommy," he said, his voice just a whisper. "Are you a spy? Like in the movies?" I knelt down in front of him, my heart aching. The wall between my 2 lives had been irrevocably breached. I couldn't lie to him. Not anymore. "Something like that, baby," I said, tucking a stray curl behind his ear. "I work for the government. My job is to help keep people safe." He thought about that for a moment. "Like those policemen are supposed to." I pulled him into a hug, holding him tight. I wanted to protect him from the complexities, from the ugly truth that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from. "Yes, sweetie," I murmured into his hair. "Exactly like they're supposed to." He hugged me back, his small arms a comfort and an anchor. In that moment, I wasn't Agent Devereaux. I wasn't a federal weapon or a key operative. I was just a mother, holding her son, in the safety of their home. The fight on the street was over, but I knew a new one was just beginning. The fight to make sure this world, with all its shadows and injustices, would never dim the bright, trusting light in his eyes. And that was a mission I would never fail.